also believe that these future women will create their own unique footprints. I know these women will be strong. It's in our DNA, right? I mean, we are genetically made up to be strong over years of experiences. So there's no question about that. But I also want these young women to have the courage to express their vulnerabilities. And I'll explain that. Their open vulnerability will be their unique footprint. See, the generations before, you couldn't show your vulnerability, right? We had to be strong in order to survive and, Lord knows, maintain your sanity, right? I've been there too. The courage to be openly vulnerable is my hope for young women of the future. I know this sounds strange, but there's new research that suggests that the lifelong insidious stress from trying to be so strong, especially from the effects of racism that we face, may contribute to poor health outcomes. The research shows we have higher heart disease, higher obesity, more diabetes, and higher blood pressure. Interestingly, the research cites our resilient behaviors. There's no question we're resilient, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But interestingly, the research says it's at a surface level. Underneath, there's some other things going on with our health. In other words, we are strong and we are resilient. But too often it comes at a very heavy price with our health. African American women have the highest infant mortality rate across all ethnicities in our country. And I found this very interesting, that the higher the education level, the worse the infant mortality rate is. Researchers conclude that dealing with racism and the worry about racism contributes to this infant mortality rate. It contributes to weakening of our immune systems and also the increase of a stress hormone called cortisol. I know we must continue to be strong, and we will be, and we will pray for God's favor. That's what we do. We know how to pray. But I propose that our gift to the young African American women of the future should be the safety net to admit that the weight we carry is heavy. I won't ask you to raise your hand, but if you've lost your African American son, nephew, or grandson to the streets, or you had to fight to keep your son from being labeled in school, if you are emotionally damaged from abuse, if you disproportionately carry the weight at home because our African American men are dealing with their own issues, if you feel the white woman looks through you at work, if your promotion took twice as long, you need the safety net to say, I am absolutely exhausted. I am not strong today. Not today. Ladies, I choose to love myself and I love my sisters even when I am not strong. Sometimes I don't want to hear be strong. I'm not today. I am showing a different way to show up in the world. And that embraces self-care, vulnerability, and strength. And I want us to repeat that because this is very important. I want us to embrace self-care, vulnerability, and strength. I wanted you to repeat it because these three attributes are not contradictory. Strength as well as vulnerability is the truth of who I am. If I don't acknowledge this truth, we all risk our spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. Too many of us are on high blood pressure medicine, anti-anxiety medicine. Can I get an amen on that?
Amen.
blood pressure medicine, or you're taking something to sleep, or throwing ourselves into overdrive into the work, community, the church. It's time for us to be more honest with each other. So my challenge for you today is to create a future where we are not afraid to be openly vulnerable so we can support each other. Today, I share a shift from pretentiousness to truth. Mary Bethune, Madam C.J. Walker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Shirley Chisholm, Dorothy Height, and one of my favorites, Ida B. Wells. They left strong footprints for us. Their footprints symbolize a proud legacy of activism, hard work, and raising families. Their footprints symbolize a resilient people who have survived hundreds of years of horrific violence and an intentional, systematic attempt to destroy our culture. That is the truth. As a result, we doubt who we are. Despite this, our strength and our resilience are generational assets to be proud of. These assets were passed on to my sister Sonia and me. But today, I share my truth, which includes strength and the courage to be honest and vulnerable. So my story, I went to one of the top public universities in the country, Miami of Ohio, and Oxford, Ohio. That's where I met Tony. I am proud to be a Butler University Bulldog. I have 2 degrees, as my mother mentioned, that weren't easy to get, microbiology and pharmaceutical sciences, and I'm very proud that my sister has her doctorate. I am not going for a PhD, so that's the only one that's going to get it. I'm very proud of her. I am married to a wonderful, wonderful man, Tony. I have handsome and uniquely talented sons, Miles and John Michael, in the back. I had a successful, almost 30-year career at Lilly. Very proud of that. I retired at 50, an absolute blessing, so I can live my second chapter. I have a loving, supportive family and friends who are here today. And I have traveled to incredible places like Mauritius, Africa, Spain, Italy, Dubai. But I ask for your permission today to be truthful and honest about my vulnerabilities. Do I have your permission? Yes. Okay, thank you. I have struggled with my body image almost all my life. And I still do now, and I know it makes no sense. It makes no sense. I know this. I felt out of place for most of my career. So I spent 30 years, it was successful, but all those years weren't happy years. I felt stigmatized from my involvement in a lawsuit against my employer, and it took a long time for me to come up under that cloud. I took a stress leave from work, and I was embarrassed to tell anybody about it. Right? You don't want to tell anybody you couldn't handle it. I sweat profusely, and it's embarrassing, even though you don't notice. I still struggle with perfectionism. I have my own Me Too sexual harassment story that I did not tell anyone for over a decade. I was afraid someone would ask me, why'd you give him this collar? I wish I had been more affectionate when my boys were young, a more affectionate mother. I'm an introvert, so I need a lot of alone time. So please don't get offended if 3 hours is my limit. I'm trying as an introvert. I'm trying. I can be very opinionated and demonstrative with it. Tony knows that the most. Probably most of you don't. You think I'm nice most of the time. I am, but I can get opinionated. My self-righteousness has sadly impacted a few precious friendships that I miss. And that's my fault. My body is changing in embarrassing ways as I get older. Can I get an amen on that? Whoa! Okay, and I'm going to give you an example. That shows how vulnerable I'm being today. I was on my way to have lunch with a friend. I was still at work at Lilly. And I stood up and I sneezed. So you seasoned ladies, what happens? See, I don't even have to say it. Now this is what happens when you get older. My mom said it gets worse. So I picked up the phone, I called Angie, I said, Angie, I'm still on my way to lunch, but I'll be a few minutes late. I think I peed on myself. And you can laugh, yeah, you can laugh, it's fine. Just like I said, I'm all out there. But I do thank you for the safety net to put my truth out there and put my vulnerabilities. Thank you. Vulnerability reveals tears, shame, and embarrassment. But there's forgiveness and love on the other side of that. Sharing my vulnerability has been my transformation to peace. It really has. Today, you see a woman that is not a prisoner to my past, shame, tears, embarrassment, or frankly, anyone's judgment. Yes, this is freeing, it really is. As we move into a new future, ladies, please find the courage to tell your stories, tell your experience. As women, we need to tell the truth so that other women know they are not alone in their experiences. Let's help other women find peace from the tears, shame, and embarrassment. Ladies, we are super women. We are resilient. We do persevere. We are strong. We are powerful. But I want us to make space for the vulnerability that is also us. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I like this quote, and I'm sorry I didn't get whose quote this was, but the quote is, vulnerability allows us to love ourselves in a way that strength never could. In closing, I propose to you a 30-day vulnerability challenge. Consider taking a risk by sharing an experience that has brought you tears, shame, embarrassment, and maybe you have been hiding because you thought others would judge you. Maybe just with one trusted friend, just one person. I did that last month with a friend that I have known since grade school. All of this that I have revealed to you today, in terms of my vulnerabilities, things I didn't share, I had not shared with her, and she's been my friend since grade school. Why? We had dinner together, and I shared something that I was quite ashamed of. You want to guess what happened? she turned around and shared an experience she had. We talked for about 3 hours, went out into the parking lot, continued to talk, gave each other a hug, and it was the best conversation I think we've ever had. Sharing my shame gave her permission to share hers. This is what the future can look like. It's a future where the past and shame do not hold me hostage. A future where I admit I am not always strong. And I love myself anyway. A future where there is no pretentiousness of perfection and no secrecy of shame. Unconditional, non-judgmental love for myself and for other women is transformational. I have been more vulnerable and open since I published my book, and that I not only freed myself, but I have freed some other women. And that means the world to me. It really does. My book and my openness and my vulnerability, the courage to be vulnerable, is my footprint. Benefits for you if you choose to embrace your vulnerability are you will strengthen your bond with other women. It will keep you real to the truth of who you are. Racism is not going anywhere, ladies. It's not going anywhere. But choosing self-care, vulnerability, and strength will contribute to your emotional, physical, and psychological well-being. If you accept this vulnerability challenge, then take the first step with me. Pull out your cell phones. Pull out your cell phones. You have permission to pull out your phones. And they're going to go to your text app. And I see that some folks aren't going to go for the vulnerability challenge. Maybe some other time. This may not be the right time. But if it is, right? If this speaks to you, if it doesn't, this isn't the time. But if this does speak to you, please pull out your cell phones and put where you would normally put a number, dial 22828. The number is 22828. And then where you would normally type a message, then you type purpose shift. It's all one word, PURPOSE, that's purpose shift, SHIFT, purpose shift. And just send that. And then when you send it, you'll just follow the directions. Okay, 22828 goes in the 2. And in the text box, it's purpose shift. And it's all one word, purpose, PURPOSE, all one word. And then if you send that, you'll get a message back and you just follow the instructions. And if anybody needs that repeated, Miss Cynthia over here can help you with that afterwards. No, shift, as in shift gears. Yes. PURPOSE. And then shift as in shift gears, if that helps. So 22828 is the number. And then purpose shift is in the text box. And then you'll get a message back. Okay? Okay, great. So if you choose to do this, and again, if it's the right time for you and it speaks to you, this will allow you to receive encouragement over the next 30 days while you're embracing your vulnerability and sharing with at least one trusted friend. You might be surprised what happens as a result. I want to make sure I provide you support as you begin to explore and share the truth of who you are. Yes, purpose shift. Like shift. Okay. So ladies, in closing, I leave you with this poem. And I love this poem, and I think it speaks to what I'm sharing with you today. She made broken look beautiful. She made strong look invincible. She had the universe on her shoulders, and she made it look like a pair of wings. Thank you for having me today.